Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today with a bit of a mental exercise. So just for a second, close your eyes and picture the sunniest, most golden afternoon you can imagine in Rio de Janeiro.
Okay, I'm there.
You've got that warm ocean breeze. You can maybe see Sugarloaf Mountain way out in the distance. And the sound. The sound in the air is just soft. It's acoustic guitar, a gentle shaker, people laughing on the beach.
I can picture it perfectly. It's that classic, almost idyllic bossa nova setting.
Exactly. Now, I want you to do a hard snap cut. Just transport yourself to a basement club in West London. It's 2 in the morning.
Okay.
It's pitch black. The walls are literally sweating. The bass is just shaking the floorboards. And the rhythm it's jagged, it's electronic, it's aggressive, and it's fast.
Two completely different worlds. I mean, completely different energies.
On the surface, yes. But today's deep dive is all about this invisible thread that ties those two scenes together. We're looking at how a specific strand of musical DNA traveled from the 1970s golden era of Brazil, crossed the Atlantic, and then just mutated into something massive in the UK underground.
It's a fascinating journey. And the carrier of that DNA, the person who's sort of the vessel for this whole thing, is the artist we're looking at today, Sabrina Malheiros.
We're basing our discussion on this really comprehensive column, Sabrina Malheiros, The Brilliance of Modern Brazilian Soul. And it's a great source because it doesn't just treat her as a singer, it really treats her as a pivot point.
A bridge.
A bridge, exactly, between that classic bossa nova and samba legacy and the futuristic broken rhythms of modern London club music.
And that is a huge claim to make. I mean, usually when we talk about musical heritage, we think of preservation and evolution as opposites, right?
Right.
You either keep the tradition perfectly in a museum or you break it completely to make something new. And the core argument here is that Sabrina, she manages to do both at the same time. She's described as all light in the genre.
A light. I like that.
Yeah, someone who maintains the cosmic legacy of her family while creating what they call modern Brazilian soul.
I want to latch onto that word you just used, cosmic. Because in music writing, that word gets thrown around a lot. It can just mean spacey or something with a lot of reverb.
Sure.
But here, it refers to something very, very specific. It refers to her literal DNA.
It does. You cannot understand Sabrina Malheiros without understanding her father, Alex Malheiros. And you certainly can't understand her sound without his band, Azimuth.
Azimuth, spelled with a Y most of the time, sometimes an I. If you're a vinyl collector or a hip-hop head, that name is, well, it's absolute royalty. But for anyone listening who maybe just knows the girl from Ipanema when they think of Brazil, help us place Azimuth. They were not playing traditional bossa nova, were they?
Definitely not. No, they were outliers.
Right.
Azimuth, starting in the 70s, they pioneered this sound that was really hard to categorize. They called it samba doido for a while.
Crazy samba.
Crazy samba, exactly. It was this thick stew of funk, jazz, and samba, but, and this is the key, it was electrified. Thunder Rhodes keyboards, heavy synthesizers, electric bass.
The source material uses 3 phrases to describe their sound that I think are they're perfect. Floating feeling, soft grooves, and cosmic chord progressions.
Those are the technical markers, yeah. When they say cosmic chord progressions, they're talking about this jazz harmony that feels unresolved, like it's floating in zero gravity. It never quite lands where you expect it to. It just keeps drifting.
And the soft groove.
That's how they played funk. It wasn't that hard-hitting James Brown on-the-one funk. It was behind the beat. It swung.
And that swing is why they're one of the most sampled bands in history. I mean, Madlib, MF Doom, Flying Lotus.
Oh, countless producers.
Have mined Azimuth Records because that floating quality, it creates the perfect loop. It sounds nostalgic and futuristic at the same time.
It creates atmosphere instantly. So Sabrina Malheiros grows up in this. She's literally watching her father invent this cosmic funk. The source says she was absorbing this mix of jazz, funk, and samba from the cradle.
Which brings us to the inevitable challenge, right? When you're the child of a legend, the easiest thing is to just become a tribute act. You play the hits, you mimic the style. But the article makes a very strong distinction. It says she isn't just Azimuth 2.0.
No, and that's the modern soul part of the title. The source argues that while she inherited that rhythmic flexibility, she can navigate those complex floating time signatures naturally, she adds this layer of female vocalist elegance.
That sounds a bit like marketing speak. What does that actually mean for the listener?
Well, think of Azimuth's music as a jam session. It's instrumental, sometimes aggressive, very fusion-heavy.
Okay.
Sabrina takes that foundation, and she applies a song structure to it. She brings melody, lyrics, and a vocal delivery that the source describes as urban soul. It's softer. It's more polished. She takes the cosmic backdrop and puts a human face on it.
So she's kind of grounding the spaceship, in a sense.
In a way, yes. She makes it accessible, but without losing the complexity. She isn't just jamming, she's crafting songs.
Let's trace this, because the source outlines a really clear path. She debuted in 2005 with an album, Equilibria.
Equilibria, and that's the prototype. Even back then, she was already blurring the lines. You have traditional instruments, acoustic guitars, percussion.
Right.
But they're layered over programmed beats. The source points out that the boundary between what was played by a human and what was programmed by a computer was getting very blurry.
Which is such a hallmark of that early 2000s new jazz sound.
Precisely. It was all about integration. But the real shift, according to the column, happens in 2011 with the album New Morning. This is where the club element starts to creep in.
The article mentions this album got strong support from the London DJ community. Why that one specifically? What was different?
The tempo and the texture. New Morning leaned harder into that urban soul vibe. It wasn't just listen-at-home music anymore. The grooves were tighter. It started to speak the language of the DJ, intro, outro break.
I see.
It was jazz funk, but it was structured for a set list. The source explicitly says this triggered strong support from the European club jazz scenes.
Okay, so she's established herself. She's got the heritage. She's got the modern soul sound. But the source really zeroes in on one project as her masterpiece, the 2017 album, Clarea.
Clarea, it's such a beautiful word.
What does it actually mean?
It translates to brighten, to clear up, or to illuminate.
And the source claims the album completely lives up to that name.
It really does. It emphasizes the sunlight in the production. The analysis here is that Clarea is a synthesis. It takes that mellow, floating jazz funk of her father, but then it adds these lush string arrangements and really refined melodies.
And it creates a soundscape of transparency. That's an interesting word for sound.
It is. It implies you can hear every layer distinctly. The production is it's not muddy, it's crisp.
Okay.
And the title track, Clarea, is the centerpiece. The source breaks it down. You have these soft, almost whispered vocal, dynamic percussion moving around the stereo field, and these flowing keyboard lines that just call back to the best of azimuth.
It's described as a texture of light. And I think the context here matters. 2017 was a rough year globally. A lot of political turmoil, a lot of noise. And here comes this album that is just pure, distilled optimism.
It's a sanctuary record. It's music to escape into.
But, and this is the twist that drives this whole thing, it didn't stay in the sanctuary. This brings us to the London connection. Because while Clarea is this sunny, breezy Brazilian track, it somehow became an anthem in the dark, sweaty world of the UK underground.
This is the most fascinating part of the whole analysis. The source calls this the new bridge between Brazil and the UK. And it wasn't built by her alone. It was built by remixers.
And we aren't talking about, some generic add-a-house-beat remix. These were curated interpretations by legends of a very specific scene.
Right.
To understand why this matters, we need to talk about the genre broken beat.
We do. For listeners who might not be familiar, broken beat, or brook, is a genre from West London in the late 90s. It's all about syncopated rhythms. Unlike house music, which is that straight boom-chick, boom-chick.
That four on the floor.
The four on the floor, exactly.
Yeah.
Broken beat is, it's broken. The kick drums are off kilter. The snares hit just a little late. It's heavily influenced by jazz fusion and African polyrhythm.
It's music that makes you dance, but you have to find the groove first. You can't just mindlessly nod along.
Exactly. It demands your attention. So the fact that these specific producers took Sabrina's sunny track and re-engineered it for that scene, it tells you something.
Okay, let's dissect the three remixes from the source. They each pull out a different piece of her DNA. First up, Henry Wu, also known as Kamal Williams.
A massive figure in the South London jazz revival. If you've heard of Yusuf Kamal, that's him on keys. Very jazz-centric style, but with a hip-hop attitude.
The source says he took the light of the original and gave it bounce.
Yeah, he stripped it back. He added soft Rhodes keys. Again, you hear that azimuth sound and a syncopated bass line. The source calls it club-ready, but elegant. He didn't turn it into a banger. He made it a stepper. Cool, sophisticated, head-nodding music. It's for that moment when a lounge is just about to turn into a dance floor.
Okay, then we have remix number 2, which goes in a harder direction. This is from 2000 Black.
2000 Black. That's the label and production team of Dago and Kaidi Tatham. I mean, if broken beat has architects, it's these guys. They're legends.
And the source calls their version Brazilian future soul. It talks about a driving broken beat and a thick bass line.
Futuristic funk is the term that stood out to me. Dago and Kaidi, they have this very distinct sound. It's very analog, very synth-heavy. It took Clarea and just gave it momentum. The article highlights this great contrast. You have Sabrina's voice, still soft and floating and organic, but underneath it is this driving, mechanical, syncopated engine.
So it's that tension, right? The human and the machine.
It creates this really unique energy. It feels like she's gliding over a complex cityscape. It's like they took the cosmic element of her dad's band and just fast-forwarded it 50 years.
And then finally, the third remix, IG Culture.
The heavyweight. IG Culture is, well, he's arguably the godfather of the whole broken beat movement.
Yeah.
And his sound is different again.
The description in the source is so evocative. It says his version has a lower center of gravity.
I love that. It implies weight, it's bass heavy, it's grounded. The source says it has a street feel and a black texture. While Henry Wu was bouncy and 2000 Black was futuristic, IG Culture is deep. It's the late night version.
It wraps her voice up.
Yeah, in this thick, enveloping soundscape.
So you have one song, Clarea, and it's interpreted three ways: urban bounce, futuristic funk, and deep street soul. This begs the question that the source poses right at the end. Why?
Right. Why does this work so well? On paper, a refined Brazilian songstress and a bunch of gritty London producers. It doesn't seem like an obvious marriage.
Exactly. I mean, usually pop remixes can feel so forced. These feel natural, almost inevitable.
The source offers 4 reasons for this synergy, and they get into some really insightful music theory here. The first is the wavering groove.
Break that down. What does wavering mean?
So in traditional Brazilian samba and jazz, the rhythm is rarely perfectly on the grid. It's not quantized like a computer beat. It swings. It wavers a little bit in time.
Okay.
And interestingly, the broken beat genre is also defined by this wonky timing. They purposely program their drums to sound loose, unquantized, to get that human feel.
So a drummer in Rio in 1975 and a producer in London in 2017 are actually feeling the beat in the same loose way.
Exactly. They're rhythmic cousins. That's why her vocals fit so perfectly over these jagged beats. They share the same pocket. They aren't fighting the rhythm. They're surfing on top of it.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, what's the second reason?
A shared harmonic language. Both Sabrina, through her father, and these UK producers are just obsessed with jazz. They use the same complex chords, minor 7s, 9s, 11s.
So they're speaking the same language.
They're drawing from the same jazz dictionary. When she sings a melody, it naturally fits over the chords they're playing.
And the third reason?
A natural affinity with neo-soul. Both scenes prioritize feeling and soulfulness over, pop hooks or aggression. It's all about mood and emotion.
And the fourth reason the source gives is light rhythms. This one sounds a bit technical.
It is, but it's crucial.
Yeah.
The source notes that because her rhythms are light and not overly cluttered, they leave space. If a track is too dense, you can't really remix it effectively. Her music is hospitable to producers. It invites them to build their own drums around her voice without it clashing.
It's open architecture.
That's a great way to put it.
So when we put all this together, the Azimuth legacy, her own modern soul evolution, and this deep embrace by the UK underground, what is the final verdict on Sabrina Malheiros?
The source concludes that she's far more than just a heritage act. She isn't just Alex Malheiros' daughter, keeping the flame alive. They classify her as a performer of modern Brazil.
And they use that beautiful phrase again. She possesses the sound of light.
The sound of light. It suggests her music functions as a frequency. And in the gray, concrete environment of London, that frequency, that Brazilian sunshine, was something people were craving. But she brought it with a rhythmic sophistication that the London crowd respected. She didn't dumb it down.
It feels like a full circle moment, doesn't it? Her father helped create this cosmic, futuristic sound in the 70s, but maybe the world wasn't quite ready for just how futuristic it was.
And that's the thought I want to leave you with. We have this linear timeline in our heads. Acoustic music is the past. Electronic music is the future. We think the 70s were primitive, and today is advanced.
Right. We assume technology defines progress.
But this story flips that on its head. Sabrina Malheiros in these remixes proved that the floating groove of 1970s azimuth was actually a futuristic sound all along. It was just waiting for the technology to catch up. It took 40 years for producers to invent the drum machines and the genres like broken beat that could fully embrace the complexity of what those Brazilian musicians were doing with analog instruments.
The future was already there in the bass lines of the 70s. We just needed the samplers to realize it.
Precisely. And Sabrina is the channel keeping that signal clear. She ensures that the cosmic DNA doesn't just fade away, it adapts.
It adapts, it travels, and it finds a new home on a dance floor in London. So next time you're listening to a track that feels like it's floating in space but still has that heavy, broken groove, check the liner notes. You might just find that Malheiros DNA at work.
Keep listening to the light.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.